The cargo bay of Station Theta 9 smelled like rust and recycled air. Marcus Chen wiped sweat from his forehead as he finished loading the last container of medical supplies onto the transport dolly. His shift was almost over, and he was looking forward to a hot meal and maybe a call home to Earth. The station orbited a mining colony in the outer rim, far from the comfortable worlds of the inner systems, but the pay was good and the work kept him busy. He pushed the dolly toward the exit, its wheels squeaking against the metal floor. The bay was mostly empty now, just a few scattered crates and the dim emergency lighting casting long shadows across the walls. Marcus hummed an old song his mother used to sing, the melody echoing in the vast space. That's when he saw it. Blocking the exit door stood a creature that made Marcus's blood run cold. It was a Vexari cub, no more than a year old by the looks of it, but still nearly 4 feet tall at the shoulder. Its fur was a deep midnight blue with silver stripes that seemed to shimmer in the low light. 6 powerful legs supported a muscular body built for hunting, and its tail, thick as Marcus's arm, swished slowly behind it. But what caught his attention most were the eyes, 4 of them, arranged in 2 pairs on either side of its elongated head. They glowed with an amber light that seemed to pierce right through him. The Vexari were apex predators from the death world of Vex Prime, a planet where even the plants could kill you. They were known throughout the galaxy as one of the most dangerous species, not because they were mindlessly aggressive, but because they were intelligent, patient, and absolutely lethal when they chose to be. Their claws could tear through steel plating, their bite could crush bone, and even a cub like this one could easily kill a full-grown human. Marcus froze. His hand instinctively moved toward the emergency alarm on his belt, but he stopped himself. Any sudden movement might trigger the cub's hunting instincts. He could see the way its muscles tensed beneath that beautiful, terrifying fur. The cub's head tilted to one side, studying him with those 4 unblinking eyes. The creature made a low sound, something between a purr and a growl. Its lips pulled back slightly, revealing rows of sharp teeth designed to rend flesh from bone. Marcus felt his heart hammering in his chest. He knew the station had a small delegation of Vexari diplomats visiting. Part of the ongoing trade negotiations between their world and the human colonies. This cub must have wandered away from its parents. The problem was simple and terrifying. Marcus needed to get through that door. Behind it was safety, other people, help. But between him and that door stood a baby nightmare, and baby nightmares could be just as dangerous as adult ones. More so sometimes, because they were unpredictable. He could try to run past it. The thought flashed through his mind and was immediately dismissed. The Vexari were built for speed and could accelerate from standing still to 40 miles per hour in less than 2 seconds. He wouldn't make it 3 steps. He could try to scare it away. Another bad idea. Predators from death worlds didn't scare easily, and trying to intimidate it might just make it attack. He could wait it out. Maybe someone would come looking for him, or the cub would get bored and leave. But how long would that take? And what if the cub decided he looked like food before then? Marcus took a slow, careful breath. His mind raced through everything he knew about the Vexari. They were intelligent, that was the key thing. Not just animal smart, but truly sapient. They had language, culture, art, philosophy. This wasn't just a wild beast. This was a child of a species that had built starships and written poetry. The cub took a step forward, its 6 legs moving with an eerie, fluid grace. Marcus forced himself to stay still. The creature's nostrils flared, scenting the air. It was testing him, trying to figure out what he was, whether he was a threat or prey or something else entirely. An idea came to Marcus. Crazy and desperate, but it was all he had. He'd read somewhere, in one of those cultural briefing documents that everyone was supposed to study but nobody really did, that the Vexari placed enormous value on politeness. Their society was built on a complex web of respect and courtesy. Even their warriors, legendary for their ferocity, were expected to observe strict codes of honor and etiquette. Could it work with a cub? Did they teach manners that young? There was only one way to find out. Marcus slowly straightened up, making sure his movements were calm and deliberate. He looked at the cub, meeting those 4 amber eyes with his own. Then, speaking clearly in the common trade language that most species understood, he said one simple word: "Please." The effect was immediate and startling. The cub's ears, which had been flat against its head in a predatory posture, suddenly perked up. Its tail stopped its aggressive swishing and began a different motion, more curious than threatening. The glow in its eyes seemed to soften somehow. Marcus felt a surge of hope, but he kept his voice steady and respectful. "Please, little one, I need to pass through that door. I mean you no harm, and I hope you mean me none. Please, may I pass?" For a long moment, nothing happened. The cub stared at him, and Marcus could almost see the thoughts processing behind those alien eyes. This wasn't instinct anymore. This was thinking, deciding, choosing. Then slowly, almost ceremonially, the cub lowered its head. It was a gesture of respect, the Vexari equivalent of a bow. The creature's powerful body folded down until its belly nearly touched the floor, and it moved to the side of the door, clearing the path. Marcus felt his knees go weak with relief, but he knew he couldn't show fear now. That would ruin everything. Instead, he bowed back, a deep, respectful bow that his grandmother had taught him from her memories of old Earth customs. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You honor me with your courtesy." The cub made a sound, a soft, chirping trill that might have been pleasure or acknowledgement. Marcus carefully picked up the handle of his dolly and began to push it toward the door. He moved slowly, keeping his movements smooth and predictable. As he passed the cub, he could feel the heat radiating from its body, could smell the strange, spicy scent of its fur. Up close, he could see the individual silver hairs mixed in with the blue, could count the scars already marking its hide from play and learning. When he reached the door panel, Marcus risked a glance back. The cub was still in its bowed position, watching him with those 4 intelligent eyes. There was something in that gaze that Marcus couldn't quite name. Curiosity, maybe, or perhaps respect, returned for respect given. He pressed the door control, and the panel slid open with a hiss of hydraulics. The sounds of the station corridor flooded in, voices and footsteps and the hum of machinery. Safety was just a step away. But Marcus paused. He looked back at the cub one more time. "Be well, little hunter," he said softly. "May you grow strong and wise." The cub lifted its head and made that trilling sound again, louder this time. Then it turned and bounded away into the shadows of the cargo bay, moving with that liquid grace that was both beautiful and terrifying. Marcus stepped through the door and let it close behind him. His legs finally gave out, and he had to lean against the wall to keep from collapsing. His hands were shaking, and he realized he was covered in cold sweat. "Chen, you all right?" A security officer was walking past, concern on her face. "You look like you've seen a ghost?" Marcus laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. "Not a ghost, a Vexari cub, in the cargo bay." The officer's eyes went wide. "What? How did it get in there? Did it hurt you?" "No," Marcus said, and he found himself smiling despite everything. "I asked it to move, politely, and it did." The officer looked at him like he'd lost his mind. She immediately called for backup and for someone to contact the Vexari delegation. Within minutes, the cargo bay was swarming with security personnel, all heavily armed and nervous. Marcus watched from a safe distance as a Vexari adult entered the bay. It was massive, easily 8 feet tall at the shoulder, its fur marked with the intricate patterns of maturity. The cub bounded out of the shadows immediately, making excited sounds, and the adult bent down to nuzzle it gently. Then the adult looked up and saw Marcus. It moved toward him, and despite everything, Marcus felt that instinctive fear return. But he stood his ground, and when the Vexari stopped in front of him, he bowed. The Vexari's voice was deep and resonant, speaking through a translation device on its collar. "You are the human who encountered my offspring?" "Yes, honored one," Marcus replied, keeping his head bowed. "And you showed it courtesy, even in fear?" Marcus looked up and met those amber eyes, so like the cub's but filled with the wisdom of years. It seemed like the right thing to do. The Vexari was silent for a moment. Then it lowered its own head, a deep bow that made the security officers gasp in surprise. Among the Vexari, an adult bowing to another species was almost unheard of. "You have done my family a great honor," the Vexari said. "You could have called for weapons. You could have tried to harm my child. Instead, you treated it with respect and dignity. This is a gift I will not forget." The story spread through the station like wildfire. Within a day, everyone knew about the human who had faced down a Vexari cub with nothing but polite words. Some thought he was crazy, some thought he was incredibly lucky. But the Vexari delegation requested to meet with him personally, and what came from that meeting changed everything. The negotiations that had been stalling for months suddenly moved forward. The Vexari spoke of Marcus as an example of what humanity could be, of the courtesy and wisdom that existed in a species that others sometimes dismissed as weak or soft. Trade agreements were signed. Cultural exchange programs were established. And Marcus found himself at the center of it all, the unlikely ambassador who had opened a door not with weapons or threats, but with a simple word: please. Years later, when the first joint human Vexari colony was established, Marcus was there for the ceremony. The Vexari cub, now a young adult, was there too, along with its parent. When they saw Marcus, both of them bowed deeply, a gesture that was recorded and broadcast across a dozen worlds, and Marcus bowed back, remembering that day in the cargo bay, remembering the moment when everything could have gone so terribly wrong and instead went impossibly right. He remembered the lesson he'd learned, not from any manual or briefing, but from simple fear and desperate hope. That sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't strength or speed or even intelligence. Sometimes the most powerful weapon is treating others, no matter how different or frightening they might be, with simple respect and courtesy. Sometimes all you need to say is please, and watch as doors open and bridges are built and futures change. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of predators and prey, hunters and hunted. But it was also a place where a human could stand before a creature designed by evolution to kill, and find common ground in something as simple as good manners. Where a word spoken in fear could become the foundation of friendship. Where a cub blocking an exit could become a story told across the stars. A reminder that humanity's strength had never been in their claws or their teeth, but in their ability to see the person behind the predator and to treat them accordingly. Marcus Chen went back to his regular duties on Station Theta 9, loading cargo and fixing equipment and living his quiet life. But he carried with him always the memory of 4 amber eyes, and the knowledge that sometimes being human meant being brave enough to be polite, even when every instinct screamed to run, to fight, to panic, especially then. Because that's what made them human, not their weakness, but their choice to extend dignity even to those who could destroy them. And in that choice, they found not weakness, but a strength that could move mountains, open doors, and bow the heads of predators.